Milanese of the world. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the Milanese 360 pod with your hosts, Nico, Defensive Dynamo, and Husney, and of course myself, coming from my not so sunny bedroom in Malaga. Anyway, yeah, great to see you guys again today. We have a lot of stuff to cover. Just coinciding with the piss poor form of the team. We're just with Milan lately. We've kind of found it, difficult to kind of get stuff out. But it is what it is. But we have a special guest as well today, Andy. Shout out, Andy. Uh, is it Romanista? I guess that's the
It's
term.
yeah, it's well Romanista, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, more than welcome. But I guess just before we cut into that, so let's start with Husney. Husney, how's your week, man?
Not great. As everyone knows, is that we haven't won in a while, so probably reflecting the mood of the club and the state of the place and how they didn't show up yesterday to really regain some momentum back into this team. So yeah, I'm feeling the same way the players are. Just another day. How about you, Nico? Doing all right?
Where do we begin? I usually pretty positive on these shows, as much as I can be. But we've lost how many games now? Important games we should have at least competed in them. We didn't show up for Roma at all. We went into the Inter game with zero passion, fire. It looks like the team gave up on Pioli during that game. Deo and Calabria decided to be tough guys and start fights and get red cards into the game. And then against Juve, yesterday we came out flat. And now these news of a potentially mid-table coach taking over the club next season.
Yeah.
So yeah, things.
It's pretty hardcore. It's pretty hardcore self-destruction we're embarking on as a club at the
Well,
moment.
that's why yesterday, if you noticed, I did a live, not a live, but a kind of a post-game analysis on the Juve game and the news. I was drinking a beer, which is unusual for me during that time, just to settle my nerves.
It was pretty bad, but yeah, honestly, the week it's been a tough one. Honestly, I think I'm at the point now where I just have no trust in the current ownership. So to even watch a game, it feels like I'm adhering to their bullshit. So I'm kind of getting to the point now where, because I respect myself too much and I won't be lied to, I just don't see the point in watching a game. So that's positive from me. Anyway, right. So on that bombshell. So to our special guest, Andy. Honestly, man, I think especially in terms of the Europa, it's been, it's been very positive, I guess, for you, right? Obviously getting past this. So, and obviously a new manager that's came in has turned things around for you guys. You're doing really well.
Yes, yeah, and the irony of it is that this is all possible because of what you guys did to us. In mid-January, you kicked our ass for the second time in the season. Mourinho was gone, I think a day later, and that's when De Rossi was brought in. So now the irony is we kick you out of the Europa League, and we practically sealed the fate of Stefano Pioli at Milan.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you for that.
I'm just saying, it's the circle of
No,
life.
it
Yes, it
is.
is.
It's very interesting, and especially there's the the interesting layer to it I had found as well is that you could compare. There's a lot of comparisons between Roma and Milan in terms of the ownership, right? Because I still believe it's the Friedkins are in charge at Roma. That's correct,
Absolutely,
then?
yeah, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and there was a lot that was being said about the way that they were approaching things from an ownership perspective, and but they seem to have really played a blinder with Christian Pasmino, Forza Soccer, indeed. Um, but yeah, they seem, they seem to really play, we got the managerial post nailed down. I mean, De
Yeah,
Rossi's done wonders for you guys,
yeah.
and he's really got you playing like a team. You must be absolutely delighted. Like, what are you?
Yeah,
What do
yeah.
you think you're like? How confident are you about going the whole way into Europa?
Well, I mean, the fact that we're facing Bayer Leverkusen, who are currently unbeaten in the season, they've won their first Bundesliga title. They are absolutely cruising. That doesn't help, obviously, in our ambitions. But I think, you know, the two games against Milan, they told a lot about both teams. As in Roma were not the favorites in that matchup, and we're talking about a Milan side that looked demotivated, that looked the opposite of Roma. Milan were completely not there to begin with. It almost looked like the roles reversed from the previous two encounters in the season, when Roma faced Milan on the third match day of the season, I believe, and you guys completely outclassed us. And then obviously mid-January, you kicked our asses. Jose Mourinho was sitting in the stands, crying himself to sleep. This time, I think the victory against Milan definitely boosted our confidence. Doesn't mean that we're gonna go through. It just means that we're still in it. We're still in the Champions League race. Obviously, you guys have secured Champions League football for next year, but it's an interesting perspective to be here and also get to talk to you guys, because the two clubs are in such a different position. You are second in the league table. You're almost locked in there. And yet here you are desperate, and you're trying to understand what the future may hold for you. Whereas Roma, we're right there for the Champions League. We got Atalanta breathing down our necks. But yes, the future with Daniele De Rossi seems bright, as opposed to Jose Mourinho, who was clearly coming to an end. The kind of end that I think Stefano Pioli is on.
So
I have a question for you, Andy.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go
Hasni.
ahead.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Hasni.
I have a question
The
for
floor is
you,
yours.
Andy. So, when it comes to the actual change, and what Shane mentioned is right, yeah, and you've also said this, the parallels between our two teams, there's a lot of similarities in terms of the journey. But what would you say is that if the roles were reversed? So, if Roma was in second place, but out of the competitions and maybe with no chance of winning any silverware, is that actually a position that you yourself would accept, keeping Mourinho and he's got you a second place? Is that success for you guys?
Well, given where we started, absolutely, man. We have been missing Champions League football since 2019. That's the last time we played a Champions League football game, was in 2019 in the spring. Daniele De Rossi was still our starting midfielder then. So that's how long it's been. So anything that allows us to get Champions League football, for us, it's a success. You guys 2 years ago were Serie A champions. That's a different journey. So, but I think the way Stefano Pioli handled the success at Milan is very similar to how Jose Mourinho handled the success at Roma. Jose Mourinho's lifted the Conference League title in his first year at Roma. That was a big thing. Then he led us to the Europa League final. Obviously, we lost. And after that, Mourinho just didn't pursue any improvements. He just sort of did more or less what Stefano Pioli is doing now. He's just cruised by, hoping for the best. The team completely losing any type of hunger, any type of drive. There is no tactics to, I mean, I when I look at where Ruben Loftus-Cheek is playing for you guys, whereas where he should be playing, which is a Mezzala, that is criminal. But that is something that also Jose Mourinho was doing at Roma. He would just, continue to persist even in the worst decisions. So that's the parallel right there.
And
To
one
me,
thing, Andy,
yeah.
we brought it. Andy, Shane. Yeah, go ahead, Shane.
All right. So just but I think Roma. It took a bit of time for Roma to finally decide that they wanted Mourinho, gone, or the Roma ownership. But when they decided that, right, the axe fell pretty hard, pretty quickly, right? Like if and it's
Yes.
like you said, it was after the Milan game, and Mourinho's out, and then you got in Rossi.
Yes.
But it shows a lack of clarity from the Milan ownership, I believe, to be keeping Pioli in his position. Because
I think it's in your case. It's really comes down to who's actually in charge. This may not be a known fact outside of Roma fan bases, but Roma, they were really close to sacking Mourinho in I believe October or November, when Roma got beat really really badly by Genoa 4-1. And the ownership, the Friedkins, were actually pushing to have him sacked right then and there. The man who got in the way of that was the general manager that we had at the time, Thiago Pinto. Once he did that, when he stood out for Mourinho, once he said no, he's not going to get sacked, that's when the Roma ownership decided not to renew the GM's contract. Once the GM was out of the door in January, that's when the Friedkins also went for the kill and decided to fire Mourinho. So I think it really comes down to who's in charge, always, to know who's in charge. I think at Milan, it's pretty unclear, right? You guys have Furlani, you have Jerry Cardinale flying in and out of Milan, meeting with like ambassadors and politicians and taking them out for a hot dog at the San Siro. You got Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who's now supposedly also in charge of things, but who is the one actually calling the shots, That's the question.
Andy, on that point, from what we've understanding, is that Ibra is a proxy to Jerry. He uses him as a proxy. So anytime that Jerry's not in the country, he's over in New York or whatever he's doing at some other conference, blabbing about finances. Ibra is his eyes and ears at Milan. So I think Ibra.
So who's calling the shots?
I think Jerry is. That's my take. And Ibra is just, whatever Jerry says, he feeds it to Ibra, and Ibra just, he just echoes that to the club. That's my understanding from what we've read from reports. Which is, if we all, and I think Ibra, and I think Shane and Husney, I think we're all in agreement with this. Ibra is a publicity stunt. We thought Ibra would come in and take this role as Maldini did and motivate the troops and recruit players, etc., and have the same effect that he had for us when we won the Scudetto, because he was one of the main reasons we won that.
Yeah,
right,
absolutely.
But now it seems like Ibra took this job to make some cash, to expand his portfolio, and to say whatever Jerry's saying. Jerry says this is what we're going to do. And this is, I think, the path, and this is why we're such a mess as a club. It just looks bad.
We tried to do the same thing with Totti shortly after he retired. We appointed Totti as some sort of ambassador, not an executive, but not really a technical director, because he just didn't have the qualifications. I think that comes down. That's what most important. When you have these really iconic players, they need to know what they're doing. They can't be just for image only. Paolo Maldini studied to be a technical director. Same thing goes for Daniele De Rossi, who for years and years refused to be associated with Roma after his retirement because he was busy studying to become a coach. You need some qualification. You can't just be a mouthpiece, It doesn't work out. Francesco Totti tried that, and after 6 months as an executive at Roma, he was bored out of his mind, and he quit. So it didn't work out. for your sake, for the sake of Milan, which is a great club, and I think if you go for anybody not named Conte, it won't be even like a bad decision from a technical, tactical standpoint, because I think, for example, somebody like Paulo Fonseca, who used to be Roma head coach, he's a really good coach and he's got really good ideas, but I just don't think you need that kind of name right now. It would be like repeating what you did with Stefano Pioli at the time. And with Pioli, it worked out. Pioli was coming off a pretty terrible stretch of managerial choices. At Milan, it worked out because you guys believed in him and you gave him time, as opposed to Gianpaolo, who lasted, I believe, 7 games. So I'm just saying it really depends on what you guys are set on doing. It seems for Roma, it seems like now the path is the opposite of what they wanted to do with Jose Mourinho. Jose Mourinho was the big name, the veteran coach, the glamour, the name, boom, boom, boom. Daniele De Rossi is the young, up-and-coming question mark. We don't really know what we're going to get from him, but we're willing to bet on him right now. That's the question that Milan should answer.
Yeah, I was dwell on that, Andy. And you asked, you just struck it for me, is that in terms of the ambition, I would think from a Milan perspective is that Jose Mourinho is maybe the better bet, because if you look at his resume, what he's done, what he's been able to achieve, it's amazing. So from your perspective is that why gamble in this way? Because Mourinho, as you could say, as underperforming as he might have been, you could say is that there's some wonder around him. Yeah? He could do things, but to completely go the other way and say that, okay, we're going to go for De Rossi. He might turn out well. He might be a complete disaster, but let's gamble. Why do you think it came to that?
I think it just came to the fact that we were dealing with somebody who lacked ideas. Roma lacked ideas. That was the primary thing. I don't think the idea behind hiring Daniele De Rossi was a publicity stunt. A lot of people called it out and said, you're calling up a legend, and it's just, again, to keep up an image as you get rid of Mourinho, who was beloved by the fan base. I think in Daniele De Rossi, the ownership immediately identified somebody who's got ideas. If you watch Roma play now, win or lose, they show something on the pitch. And it's not only motivation. It also comes down to the ideas that are being conveyed by the coach. Somebody like Leandro Paredes, who was useless under Mourinho, who was useless under Allegri at Juventus last season, he's completely revitalized. He's one of the best midfielders right now in Serie A by in terms of performing. And that's only possible because somebody like De Rossi came in with actual ideas. Is there a gamble involved? Obviously. But I think there is also a gamble involved in hiring somebody like Mourinho. It costs you. Like the kind of players that we had to pursue because Mourinho was there clearly worked out in some occasions, like attracting somebody like Dybala. But on a number of occasions, we went after players who were experienced, veteran players, such as Gini Wijnaldum, and it didn't work out, And I think Roma are dealing with a very specific financial situation, and Daniele De Rossi is a better fit for that. Daniele De Rossi is going to be a coach that will actually work with the financial fair play conditions that Roma have to operate under, whereas Mourinho was very unhappy to do it. I think that's the primary reason for now.
Andy, on your point, also, I remember reading, I don't think it was from your site, AS Roma Press, or another Roma blog, had said that when De Rossi came in, the players admitted to to De Rossi, it was that they were tired of Mourinho. They had gotten sick of his tactics. They had stopped listening to him as well. And I think that's a factor as well. Yeah. Regardless of how well of a coach Mourinho is, at some point, it's natural for players, for teams to get to kind of stop listening to the coach. They're just tired of listening to his voice. It happened with Klopp at Liverpool. You're seeing how they're performing now as well. I mean, just like you said, the coaches run out of ideas and the players stop listening. I think that's
Absolutely.
another point as
Look
well.
at look at again the match against Milan in the Europa League, Roma Milan in the Europa League, both legs. You can see the difference in how the players interpret what the coach is asking of them. I never had the feeling that Milan were gonna come back in that second leg. Once we scored that second goal, we could have ended the match right there. Just from a purely motivational standpoint, Milan, even when we were down to 10 men, I just didn't have the feeling that Pioli had a grip on the team. And that's why it's inevitable by now that you guys are gonna part ways. It's odd to me that Maldini even renewed his contract before he left because you're gonna have to sack him. I don't see Pioli walking away gracefully. He's not really been very graceful about his future over these last few weeks. So
One thing I did
Andy,
notice. Yeah, go ahead, Husney.
Yeah, I just have a question about that. Because you spoke about revitalizing. So there's one player that's always, stuck in my mind since last season, and that's Rick Karsdorp. So if I remember, Mourinho actually completely slated the guy. I think it was last season,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe towards the end. But he
Yes.
still stuck around the team, and I don't know the Mourinho effect. Is it over? You could say, is it overrated? I mean, Karsdorp's still inside the team, and I see that he has
Karsdorp is part of the team, but it's because nobody wants to buy him. Karsdorp has been offered literally everywhere. What happened was last November 2022, Karsdorp made a really bad mistake coming off as a substitute. Roma conceded because of it. Mourinho called him out in the press conference, said the player that made the mistake tonight will no longer play for me. And then Karsdorp was cut off the team for like 2 months, and Roma tried selling him at all costs. They couldn't, so Karsdorp stayed behind and was forced to stay at Roma until the end of the season and into this new season. The Mourinho effect is definitely there for some players in a specific point in time. The way Mourinho had these guys playing in European competitions is still astonishing. From a fan of a team that has always been terrible in Europe, the fact that we've managed to turn it around and actually look competent in European competitions is mostly due to the Mourinho effect. But that doesn't, I think, apply to all competitions such as Serie A. And I think that's what we saw in Serie A this season. The team completely lost any kind of cohesion because Mourinho persevered in the wrong choices, and he made players perform badly in positions where they were not supposed to play.
Yeah, the one thing I did notice, Andy, in the two legs, and I'm sure you noticed it as well, what Roma did really well defensively, they were overloading, and I think we brought this up the last time with Husney in our last podcast after you dropped off, and it happened in two legs. They were overloading Leao and Theo's side of the pitch defensively and negating them. And what puzzled me as somebody who's like is huge on these defensive tactics and like watching the game, I don't know, it blew my mind that Pioli in the second game noticed what they did, and even De Rossi came out and said, I'm not changing a damn thing in the second game tactically. Whatever worked the first game, I'm doing the same thing. And Pioli did not adjust, which is crazy.
And Pioli didn't even adjust after Roma lost Zeki Salik to a red card. He put Luka Jovic on, okay, cool. But you never had the sense that Milan were going to take advantage of being 11 men on the pitch versus 10. It just wasn't there. I really felt for the first time, because you've been kicking our ass for the last few years. This was really, this is the first time in a long time that we've managed to turn around. I actually saw the kind of helplessness that we displayed so many times against you, I saw that same helplessness in Milan. Milan played and looked helpless in that match. I think they've looked helpless for the last few weeks, for the last few months, actually. The fact that you were never a real threat to Inter, despite having the weapons to do so, at least in the league, is down to that. Is down to a team that I think has lost all kind of cohesion with the coach's ideas, if the coach has any ideas left.
Yeah, and he admitted it. He doesn't know how to defeat Inter. He came out in a press conference and said, "I don't know how to beat them. I've tried everything, and I can't."
He said
do it."
they're too good. He said they're
They're
too
too good. Which, as a defeatist mentality, that's the last thing you want to hear your coach say publicly.
Yes, it's like it's like Mourinho. Mourinho said repeatedly this season, Salernitana, before the Salernitana match. He said, no, after we drew on the first game of the season, we drew 2-2 with Salernitana. He said Salernitana can compete for Europa League. He said Roma have a worse roster than Fiorentina, Atalanta, and Bologna. When you say these things so openly, there is a very thin line of protecting your team and publicly throwing them out into the gutter. And Mourinho, I think, did that. Pioli certainly did that because the team is not responding to him anymore. I mean, this is the same coach with a lot of the same players who made Milan click 2 years ago when you guys won the Scudetto and you were cruising. And then over the last 2 years, I think all the humility, all the ideas that he had built up at that point just completely vanished. He's become really pretentious, really cocky in a lot of these appearances and a lot of decision making. I mean, even the fact that he didn't adjust to a simple idea that Daniele De Rossi threw out there. I'm just going to put Stefan El Shaarawy on Rafael Leao and see what happens. I mean, if you're a motivated coach, you're going to work your way around it. Pioli just flat out give up.
Andy, I have a specific question. Because I'm just looking at not the main our main league, but I'm looking at the Primavera. The Roma Primavera, if for those who are listening and don't know, are actually second in the Primavera. They actually have a chance of actually winning it, so they're not too far behind Inter, and no one wants Inter to win, by the way. So how does actually the Roma pipeline look like? Because for Milan, we are very proud of what our boys or what our kids have actually achieved. So inside the youth league and how far they've gone. But how about Roma? Is this something to look out for in terms of the whole sphere of Italian football?
I think Roma have always relied very heavily on their Primavera talent. As far back as Alessandro Florenzi, Lorenzo Pellegrini, who's now the captain. Over the years, obviously, we had other players who emerged from the Primavera, such as Gianluca Scamacca, Davide Frattesi. A lot of good quality players. Roma's Primavera has always been very strong. Over the last few years, it's been a bit iffy. I still think the gap between Primavera and Serie A in Italy is huge. And at Roma especially, there have been spells where we've relied on a lot of Primavera players, and it just didn't work out in terms of after a few games, the magic would disappear, and right now they're playing for Cremonese, Hellas Verona, Sassuolo, or in Serie B, Serie C. So it's a big leap. Obviously, it's still something that Roma make use of. For example, Edoardo Bove is a bench midfielder for us, but he's been very good this season. We have Nicola Zalewski also from the Primavera. I think in recent years there's been more caution with introducing players from the Primavera to the first team. Roma have been using the Primavera a lot in order to settle their financial fair play requirements, which, for example, in order to generate X amount of money by June 30, Roma have been known for selling a lot of their Primavera talent. So I think that's that's been the case for a lot of teams in Serie A. With financial fair play really coming down on a lot of clubs, including Inter, Milan, Juventus, Roma. The fact that we every summer, instead of actually paying attention to what goes on in our youth sector, we take those talents and we ship them out to the smaller sides, or like Inter, who sell Casadei for 20 million to Chelsea. Those are things that happen in today's football. It's something that is unfortunately forced upon us. It changes completely the landscape of youth level football.
Andy, are you excited about any players coming up on the pipeline for Roma?
I think Pagano is a player that is very exciting. He's the Primavera captain. He was linked in January with a move to Juventus when Roma got Dean Huijsen on loan. Pagano is a really good midfielder. He's the type of guy who can score a lot of goals. As a number 10, as a play, kind of play can play anywhere as a number 8, even as a false 9. So he's an exciting talent. I think we have also a good winger called Joao Costa. He's a young guy coming up from Brazil, very very quick, good crossing, has a lot of assists to his name. So those are the names to keep up, but mostly really Roma have been much more cautious and much more selective about their talents, and I think that's the correct way to do it, because a lot of times we've relied way too heavily on these young talents to just burn them out too quickly. A lot of the times they would feature as starters 1-2 games, and then one bad performance, that's all it takes you know to take out the confidence out of a 18, 19-year-old kid.
That's fair, yeah. I think because going by our Primavera results, the Milan, sorry, Primavera results this year. Again, they've done very well in what is it, the youth league or the youth
Correct.
champions
Yeah,
league, whatever you
that's
call
right.
it. Yeah, that one. So they've done quite well in that, right? Um, I guess, and another kind of possible comparison that you could say is we like if we did dump Pioli, let's say today, and then we could feasibly promote Abate and see how he'd do, right? And like to be honest, in terms of we're going to cover this in a bit, but in terms of the managers that we're actually looking at right now, I don't really see them in being like a huge jump in quality and someone that we should look to get in the door, ASAP. Especially the one that we're like seem to be most linked with. But I guess we can talk about that later. But I think there's one thing that's kind of annoying me at the moment with quite a sizable section of the Milan fan base is that they seem to not want to just get rid of Pioli now. Or it seems, or before it was confirmed that he was actually exiting in the summer, it was, well, he can just do one more year, you know, and then we'll see how we go. And the whole reason behind the fan, certain members of the fan base having that opinion was like they were saying, well, we don't know who we're going to get. But the thing is, it's like you said, right, Andy? It's like if if you don't take a gamble and take a chance, right, when you're getting in a new coach, you're never going to succeed like anywhere. So just
Yeah.
keeping a hold of a coach that's basically lost the team. You could see that. I could see that over the two legs in the Roma, in the Europa. I think he's completely lost it. I think this probably started a long time ago. For me, I think it started midway through last season when we were getting smashed by Sassuolo 6-2.
Yeah.
I think that's ironically when it started. The only thing that saved Pioli was this influx of new players, and that probably brought a bit of, oh, fresh like perspective and and happy feelings and shit into the squad. But then once it kind of reverted back to type, the players have suddenly found out that this guy doesn't have a fucking clue what he's doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of the way I
I
feel
think
about it.
listen, I think it really for me the decision to appoint Stefano Pioli way back then was a brave one, because again, the guy, in my opinion, has the resume of one of the. I mean, up until Milan, Pioli was one of the most mediocre names you could possibly appoint as a long-term coach of a big club. Okay, the guy had a resume of Chievo Verona, Bologna, Lazio, and a terrible interim spell at Inter. That's it. That was his career. But you bet on him and you believed in him. Unlike what you did with Giampaolo, you brought in Giampaolo. You expected champagne football from a guy that did quite well for Sampdoria given the reality of it, but was unable to translate that to a bigger context. With Pioli, you took a gamble. You believed in the work that he did at Fiorentina, which you can argue was his best spell as a coach. And you believed in him, and that was the commitment that allowed you then to win the Scudetto. Now I think the primary question is, what do you want to do? Do you want to do something akin to that, to take a gamble again, to believe in a coach that may have an unproven track record at this stage, or do you want somebody like Conte that will demand excellence from the very first day, and who will bring in a lot of pressure? That's the key question. There was honestly a moment this season where I was even afraid you might keep Pioli, because he still has one more year left. Now it seems that decision is already taken. His future is marked. But it will be definitely interesting to see in which direction you decide to head in, because you will still play Champions League football next year. This is not the Milan side that Pioli encountered when he was first appointed. You have different objectives. You've just let Inter win a Scudetto in the Derby, where they won their, 6th consecutive derby? So I'm just saying, the stakes are completely different, as opposed to when Pioli first arrived and you were just emerging from the so-called banter era.
So a few points I want to bring up that is Shane and Andy just brought up. So first things first, about why a lot of fans didn't want Pioli to go, or in the middle of the season or last season. From my understanding was, which I disagree with, was, well, one, we have to still pay his salary, right, regardless, even though we lost out money in Champions League, a ton of money. Two, when we brought up, a lot of us brought up, hey, why don't we just put Abate in there temporarily and see what he does? They said, why ruin the youth team, the Primavera? Why risk them in their success? And the other reason they wanted to keep Pioli, the other justification was, well, all the injuries that have occurred on the team, all the key injuries to starters, which, by the way, he was responsible for most of them with his medical team and the decisions he made to play players injured like Kululu, who was compromised, and he played them regardless. And here we are today. And Andy, I'm sure you saw the same thing. You noticed this as well, right? I mean, with the uptick in injuries and players playing hurt, and saying to yourself, why is Pioli doing this to the team?
Yeah, I mean, what jumps at you when you look at Milan's numbers over the last few years is the number of injuries. It's astonishing. I don't think I've ever seen such a top team have so many players out of action. Probably only Juventus in recent years have had so many injuries on this top level. and especially muscular injuries. It's not even oh, he blew an ACL or something. It's always minor stuff that then ends up keeping key players out for a lot of the season. That is one of the first things, I think, when you want to have success, when you want to be consistent. You just have to have a good medical staff. I mean, look at Atalanta. The reason why they've been so good under Giampiero Gasperini is because he has one of the best medical teams, and one of the best staff teams in all of Italy, and they've worked wonders with the few tools at their disposal. They've done everything that needed to be done in order to take care of the players' health. Same thing for Napoli last season. Napoli last season are everybody's sharp, everybody's physically fit, and they're just cruising. So same thing for Inter under Antonio Conte. That's what makes great teams great. I know for a fact that's what kept Roma last season from competing for top four, because in the most crucial part of the season, Chris Smalling and Paulo Dybala went down. Right there, you miss your two best players, arguably your best offensive player and your best defensive player in a crucial part of the season. That takes a toll on you. So I think that's definitely contributed to how Milan have fared in the last couple of years.
Yep, fair point. Fair point. I think might as well just to, I guess, go through the shit show of the last couple of days. Might as well just bring up that, yeah, the elephant in the room. Um, I did watch this game. Obviously, it was a very important one. It was a big one. But yeah, because we've a coach that's lost the team. Essentially, there was literally no one showed up from from like any squad member that any player basically that played in that game in the Milan jersey was just, I mean, completely ineffectual, useless for the most part. So just to give a bit of added context for anyone that doesn't know, um, Inter basically, uh, beat us at at San Siro with Milan as the home team, and in beating us, they basically secured their Scudetto, and because it's their 20th Scudetto, it's their second star. Uh, Probably what 15 of those, 16 of those maybe were won on the pitch. Four were basically given as a favor by Juventus, but still they're on 20. So yeah, it was a awful game to watch. Didn't enjoy it at all. I do apologize. There's a baby screaming outside my front door, so hope you can hear that. But yeah, that was a recap of the Inter game. So I guess Hosni, did you watch it? What were your feelings on it?
Yeah, I painfully watched it. There's not a lot that I want to relive. It's just that I can understand the fire that these guys have because we're playing the derby, but getting out tacticked and getting scored on like that, I'm lost for words. It's when you lose against the same team, especially your bitter rivals, this many times in this succession. I don't know how we're going to bounce back if Pioli does remain at the coach, or you could say if a lot of what Pioli has implemented continues to remain. If you ask me, before the derby, we had all the reasons to try and give it all our all, and that would have been the crucial game where it's one of those games where you could have lost a lot, but there's some must-win games. That was a must-win game, by the way, not because we could have impeded Inter or we could have stopped them and we could have ourselves challenged for something. No, but for your own reputation, that's the game that you should have won. But in true Pioli fashion, we have problems with the how we are set up. We have problems about how we play, and we are so vulnerable to all these silly mistakes. It's disgusting. I mean, what can we actually do to change it? I don't know. I honestly don't know. And for the stakes to be such as that they would win in and essentially laugh in our faces, what more humiliation do you want? So we had that. We also had the incident towards the end, but we 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 deserve everything that's happened to us in that sense. We've let it happen. We cannot, for the life of us, I don't know why we can't beat this Inter team since CDK played for us. This is how long ago it was. What is the running number now? What was that? 5 losses straight to Inter. Am I getting that number? I know if anyone in the chat is can correct me there. It's disgusting. Based on that alone, Pioli should have been sacked the next day. But hey, what do I know? Yeah, and he still has a job. I don't know, Andy, whether you've managed to catch that game and how disappointed that you were.
Well, I just think it's I mean from the perspective of somebody who has had to suffer a number of because we hadn't won against Lazio until Daniele De Rossi came in 2 years. We hadn't won against Lazio, so I can only imagine. Actually, I can't even imagine what it must feel like to have your direct rivals lift the Scudetto right in front of you after humiliating you once again, because in addition, like last year, the last season, the kind of stuff that we saw in the Champions League where you guys faced the Inter, that was humiliation taken to unbelievable proportions. This time, this felt like the cherry on top. Just awful. I think it has to feel awful to see Inter. Obviously, Inter again. It's a whole different team compared to Milan. I never had the feeling that, unfortunately, that Milan were going to compete with Inter, and that applies to so many teams in Serie A. Even Juventus, when they were right there, right behind Inter, just never felt like they were making things happen the way Inter did. Inter knew what they were doing. Juventus were collecting results just by sheer luck. And I think the same can be said about Milan during their very positive streak. There was a moment in time where all the results were going your way. Even right before we faced each other, right? We were coming off a really positive streak. But unfortunately, it was almost like a mirage, and I think that's you can't expect success when you're just relying on chance and on quality players to do their job. There has to be something more there to tie the whole thing together.
Andy, can I just ask from your perspective, if a Roma team had lost 6 times against Lazio, what would actually the reaction have been?
Well, the reaction.
Because for us, nothing changed.
We hadn't scored against Lazio in 2 years. We had lost 3 times and drew once, so we're not that far off. And the frustration was growing. And what happens is also the players' mentality changes completely, because all of a sudden the derby becomes almost this insurmountable mountain that you cannot climb for the sake of you. Because whatever you do, the opponent is stronger, right? You're going into a match where your track record shows that the opponent is clearly far better than you are. So, and unfortunately, it's not the case. I mean, Milan roster-wise, I really don't see that big of a difference. Maybe I'm biased, but I really like what you guys have on the team. Perhaps the midfield is a bit iffy. And the defense could use some improvements, especially Calabria. Not a guy who should be starting in 2024, including Alessandro Florenzi. I don't know what this guy is still doing as a footballer. But as a team, you guys are still good. It's just you lack ideas. It's pretty evident. And 6 straight losses in a derby are the prime example of a lack of ideas.
So, sorry for the technical difficulties. I'd like to get my thoughts with the Inter game.
Nico, I'm sorry, I just wanted to say I will be leaving. Roma are playing in 3 minutes. So I just wanted to thank you guys for inviting me on here. It's been a pleasure.
It's great having you, Andy. Thanks very much, man. And best of luck as well with your new manager. And
thank you.
Thanks,
yeah. Thanks a lot. Good luck with the rest of the season, and we stay in touch.
For sure, man.
Take care, Andy. Thanks again.
Thanks so much.
Andy.
Thank you.
All
right, gents.
So, guys, I'd like to get my thoughts into the Inter match. I had some technical issues with my laptop for a second there. So, what we all, I think we all noticed the same thing. was that, again, we didn't show up for this derby, right? Hold on.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty poor. I mean, like it when nearly every player on the pitch is just has a very poor performance in a derby where there's so much at stake. Like it's inexcusable, really. I mean, I'd said it. I think there's a bit of an echo.
Yep, it's fine. That was on my
Yeah,
end. Go ahead.
yeah. But so, like I'd said this on our chat. Um, so obviously the Milanista 360 has a WhatsApp chat. So I was chatting with the guys on it, and I'd actually said Milan are, they are playing like a team that's basically been told that their coach is not going to be there for too long more. So it's literally that, I think that decision was made after the Europa, and the players were essentially told before the Inter game. And so, in their perspective, they don't give a toss now, basically, as to what's happening, and they just don't have to put in effort on the pitch. That's the way I feel about it. Yeah. Oh,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Nico's
So
having
let's.
issues. Yeah. All right.
Okay. Do you want to move on to the next?
Let's let's do it from one shit show to another one.
Yeah. So I watched this one the entire game. I had actually expected that it would be a single goal and it would just be lame after that. But yeah, Fabio from Milan Weekly Podcast, he actually called it. So he was on a stream, and shout out to Milan Weekly Podcast. He actually called it be a snooze fest and a 0-0, which was it. But from my perspective of the game, it seemed that had the game went on maybe a little 5 to 10 minutes longer, we might have lost that game because towards the end they were piling on the pressure, and I'm just very surprised that we'll be able to take that. Interestingly, I did actually call Sportiello as man of the match, but then he had a butterfinger moment that almost cost us the game. But thanks to Chow putting his body literally on the line to actually block that ball coming in. So yeah, I mean, I am quite disappointed in terms of why are we not taking these games and making something out of it. We saw a few minutes from Zeroli, so that was a bit of a positive. Chukwueze, I honestly don't know why he's being treated the way he is. Uh, Pulisic, Pulisic seemed to want to do something, but maybe to give Pulisic close to about 80 minutes, I thought was a bit too much. So yeah, thanks to Pioli, we have strong lineup. Seems a bit demotivated. We have players who I think really want to play, not getting the chances. But another day in life of Pioli's on fire. How about you, Nico?
So, apologies everybody for the technical issues. One of those days. So, obviously, I missed the review of Inter. That's fine. But in terms of the Juve game, so I have a couple notes on this. So I actually watched the game, even though a lot of us didn't watch the game. I had second thoughts about watching it as well yesterday, to be honest. But the one thing I noticed and I liked was Chow. I don't know what Chow did, what Chow ate prior to the game. One of his best performances all season. Positionally, he was great. He was. I think he locked up Juve's forwards the whole game. Vlahovic, right? And overall, the kid did well. Whatever was going on mentally with him, he was performing pretty great yesterday. Musa, I don't know why he was playing right back yesterday again. And I had a couple discussions with some people about him, and they're like, well, Musa's playing great. He's doing well. But then we noticed, I think, during the game, he turned the ball over. There was a time. He was a 1v2 right outside of the box. Tried to take players on instead of taking the ball back, lost the ball, yellow card.
Yeah,
And
Ray.
obviously, and obviously our offense was terrible. I don't know. Again, where was Liao? Liao was a ghost. Captain America was a ghost as well. Our midfielders didn't do anything. Tijani didn't do anything offensively at all. So I was, besides the defensive, we did okay finally, but offensively we were a joke again.
So
Yeah.
I mean,
On that
you
point,
saw the
Nico,
same.
we spoke.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we spoke about this in one of the previous streams. Is that these last few games are actually a form of interview for the next coach. Yeah. So if you don't show up, what is the next guy coming in? What is he going to see about your performance and whether you still have it in you to actually wear the shirt? If these players don't
Yeah,
show up and seeing the ways that things are, do you think this is a form of a sign that the players put on their head saying that please sell me because I'm done with this shit? What do you think?
I think like I said, we talked about this as a job interview for these players, and maybe they don't care about next season. They're not thinking about who comes in as the next coach to replace Pioli. I have no idea, but show something. If you don't want to show, if you're giving up for Pioli, fine, that's fine. But to give up, to not to show anything for your potential coach and for the fans, or for yourself, just personal pride. You're getting paid millions of dollars to play a sport that everybody would love to play professionally. And this is what you do. To lose and to give it your all and to try and actually care about trying to win the game, I can accept as a fan. But going out there, and what was he at Liao yesterday? Liao's got the number 10 shirt, which is a historically great number to wear, right? Right, Shane and Husney,
And
do
the
you agree with
captain's
that?
armband.
All the
Yeah, and the captain's armband
armbands.
yesterday.
yep.
And you show nothing yesterday. And it's not like Juve did the same thing that Roma did. Roma, they locked them down on that side because they were just sending players wave after wave on the outside. But what did Juve do yesterday to shut them down? Nothing. I forget his stats, but Liao didn't. I think he lost the ball like 16 times.
Yeah, Nico, on that, I just want to make a comment about Liao. Yes, he was poor, so he tried to out dribble
Poor.
and it didn't work. But there were also times where there were 2 or 3 Juve players on him or actually blocking his path. So that's
Well,
my only take about
to be honest, I didn't see the game because again, just to confirm, I'm kind of finding myself in the frame of mind now where I can no longer trust that Cardinale wants success for this club. All of the the bullshit job positions that are getting created, like like personal advisor to Cardinale, like all this is literally smoke and mirrors. It so there's no tangible work being done on the club to make it a success. There's just loads of random things that we're trying, hoping some of it sticks. If you want to see how, irregardless, by the way, of the financial aspect, right? But if you want to see how, how to refill a squad with talented players, you can look at Inter because they've been doing it for the last few years, right? Irregardless of how they're achieving it, that's another method, right? But I mean, Inter have who do they have? So what's it? Marty? What's his name? I can never remember his name.
Morata.
Yeah, Morata, right? So Morata, right? So I mean, he's amazing at getting these players, right? And oftentimes, like on like you know, like free agents, basically. Like, and Inter, having ran away with this league title, will go into next year with probably the same core of players. They'll have Tarami, like on top of a strike force that also has what's his name, Martinez and
Turan.
Thuram. Like, I mean, like that. Now, if you want to talk about, like how to make something a success, right? It's getting in good players. Like Route One is good players, right? We've got in, how many players did we get in? 12 players, something ridiculous like that in the transfer window. Like there was a huge amount of player turnover, and and we're all excited. But to be honest, outside of one or two of them, like the rest, they've not added to the quality of the squad. They just haven't.
Well,
So
because we didn't have a path, Shane. We just randomly just picked players in during the summer. We didn't
yeah,
have an idea of what we wanted. Because
like
Inter, this is the thing we have to understand too. Now that we're going into next season with a new coach,
yep,
so next season is going to be another wash for us. We can't expect anything, regardless. Even if we put in Xavi Alonso, Pep Guardiola, Carlo
yep,
Ancelotti, it's going to take time for the team to get used to his. We can't expect us to contend for the Scudetto next year, at all.
no, no,
Inter, they have Inzaghi coming back for another season. One, the players know, we've talked about this before in previous podcasts. He has a DNA. There's Inter knows how to play. They're comfortable with his system. They play good football. He's adding players, so Inter's going to be stronger next year.
that's it.
So for us Milanistas in there, all of us next year going in, don't expect much from our team. Now, me personally, if the first 10 games we've only won 2 or 3 games in the first 10 games, then yeah, obviously we need to question the new coach and maybe replace him with somebody else.
Yeah,
But don't expect us to make a push for the title next year at all. Champions League as well. We need, but we as what I want to expect, and I'm sure Shane and Husney would agree. I want to hear your thoughts on this. Is we want to see at least exciting football. All right, we don't want to see the same. We don't want to see the same thing over and over again. The same mistakes defensively, the gaps in the midfield. We want things tighten up. We want to look like we're actually a team out on the pitch, and not some disorganized amateur Sunday league team that we look like half the time.
this is it. But like I think, and the biggest
I mean,
disappointment about the Lopetegui links, we're going to cover this a bit later. But like, if you're linked to a coach like that, you're not getting that coach because you want success in the Champions League. That's literally a Europa League level coach. So and I think, to be quite honest, outside of Pulisic, I think you could probably say that an awful lot of the players that we bought in are not Champions League level players. They're Europa League level players.
well,
So
it's
I
also the
mean,
coach too. It takes a coach to bring him up to that level too, Shane.
that's true. That's true.
Look at Xavi Alonso. He doesn't have the best talent. I mean, they have good players, but they're not proven players. And look what he's taking them this year in
That's very
Bundesliga.
true.
A coach can do a lot to a team to motivate and to develop. Actually, even though a player at that level, they're developed per se, they're still learning. Like the stuff that Pep's Guardiola's players have talked about in interviews of how Pep teaches them about the game that they haven't learned from any other coach. If that's when an extraordinary coach like that would bring to the team those attributes, those little key points to take a team from Europa League to Champions League.
I just want to add something there. My expectation is that with any coach, I hope he addresses areas which are purely under his control, yeah, without having to involve too many people. Backroom stuff. Medical, I don't know how this can continue to linger. It's like just because we start the season, everyone seems to be out of the treatment room, then it seems like it isn't a problem anymore. They're just kicking it down the road, the can down the road, and it's going to resurface back in January. And we have the same issues again. So whoever it is, I hope that number one priority, make sure that his house is in order. I want a coach really who's number one, and I saw this in the documentary with Conte when he joined Tottenham. They actually put it inside a documentary, yeah. When Conte joined, and anyone can see this on YouTube. He spoke to Daniel Levy, I think is the name, the chairman of Spurs. He said, I need this guy for the medical team." He actually has a list of people who he trusts can actually help him deliver the results. I know he didn't have the best time in the Spurs, but I need someone to really stamp to say that I don't want to have to deal with basic problems about injury and all that mess. In his system, I don't just want one guy, for example, like Pioli and two or three of his other cronies or stooges to actually come in and think that they know what they're doing. So that is for me number one priority, whichever coach it is. For the second part, the targets really have to be aligned on that. Purely, if you ask me, giving him more power and knowing what happened last season, I thought that was a big mistake. We need to have someone in between. That's why I thought that, okay, other than being just a fan of Maldini's role is important to actually balance to say that there are players that are good, that should be in our team, that can outlast a manager. This is the issue that I had with giving more power to Pioli. He's not going to last. Him having a bigger say in the transfer market is a mistake. We now have players within our roster, probably difficult to move on, that an oncoming manager might not want. So what we left with? Deadwood. And who do we have else coming back? We got Origi coming back. I think in the chat they've mentioned quite a few names, yeah? Origi and the others. What are we going to do with these guys? Is someone actually going to make a player out of Colombo or not? Is Daniel Maldini, is he coming back? I don't think we sold him. He's out on the loan. So I'm absolutely confused about what is then the strategy. And a lot, that is also the responsibility, and also we have to hold to account the existing management. Forlani, if you ask me, if he doesn't know what he's doing, just get rid of it. Yeah, I don't know why he started with that, other than the fact that he's
I thought he was on his way out for
clown.
Lonnie. I thought he was on his way out, isn't he? Or no?
Yeah,
I don't know
sure
if that is tied
summer.
to any Elliot loan deal or not. Maybe if PIF do come in and take over that Elliot loan, maybe that's the only time that we'll see Fernando leave. But on that, I don't know. Actually, there's quite a big mess in the management side. This is my take on it.
Yeah, but all the changes though, like yeah, so it's just you only see it's all the changes that are taking place, right? And none of them. It's like it seems to be they're more interested in shaking up things at a level anywhere but on the pitch. Because I mean, we're going to go into this transfer market. We need at least 2 strikers. So that's the
Shane,
budget, guy.
Can I stop you right there?
Hmm.
I agree with you and I don't. We have strikers, yes. We need strikers. Giroud's leaving. Yeah, he's done. We have Jovic, he's okay. Okafor could play striker occasionally. Do we have a two? So, but say we spend all our money on 2 strikers. Say we get Zerki, we pull him off. We pay 50 million for him, all right? And we get another striker for 30. That's 80 mil. And say we have a budget of 100. Where does that leave us with our defense? Because and if your midfield is crap, if it's the same midfield as this season, I should say, if we're going in with no true defensive midfielder, because Adley is not. I don't care what he said to Pioli, he's not a defensive midfielder. Musa has the ability, but he needs a mentor. He needs somebody to teach him the ropes to do that, because he does have the engine. He has the motor. He just needs to develop into that kind of player. But if we don't have a defensive midfielder again next season to cover that gap between the midfield and the back line, I don't care if you bring in Mbappe or Haaland. We're gonna give up a ton of goals next season, and we're gonna be in the same situation again.
Exciting times ahead. Like, yeah, Christian,
dude,
the video,
fellas, because at the end of the day, the midfield for me is the essence of the team. That's the bloodline of your team. If you don't have a midfield, you don't have.
Yeah, that's true. So, but yeah, let Maldini stay in Monza for another season. That's Gunardi, and then see how.
I want him back. I'd like to have him back. See what the kid can do. How he feels playing for us again after what they did to his dad, but
yeah,
to his father. But he's
Yeah.
he's great. I mean, I think was it Liao that said was somebody had said he's one of the most talented players on Milan
Yeah,
at the
Liao
time.
is Liao.
Liao
He
said
even
it.
scored
So
against this. I mean, it doesn't get any more ridiculous than this, right?
the kid could
What more do you
play.
want?
The kid could play. Why not bring him back and see what he can do?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, I think there's definitely merit in it. So what's the Inter BS, Christian? If it's just them basically trolling us on social media for the last week, yeah, I've seen that. Or
Yeah.
if there's more
Did you
news.
guys see Hakan? His the AI image of Hakan with the headphones holding the Scudetto.
Oh yeah, like
Oh,
you know,
he's rubbing it
again,
in.
you can't
I
begrudge.
can't wait. I can't. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Shane.
You can't begrudge when a team is just all around like better, right? As much as it sucks, you can't begrudge them because they're superior to us in nearly every aspect. So it's like I, probably if you look at the Inter starting 11, right? Maybe at best two or three of our players at best would make it into that starting 11. Whereas like you know role reversal, like I mean a ton of those Inter players would make it onto our starting 11. We're just
Well,
not at the
let
same
me ask you
level.
this. Since you brought that up, who would think would be those three players that would make it onto their squad?
So I would say Magnan, Teo,
Sorry.
yeah,
You mean
Magnan,
our squad to Inter?
ours. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
our squad,
so our squad.
our team.
I
Which players from Milan would make it on the Inter's starting 11?
I think Magnan, I think
Krunic.
Teo, and it's going to be Leo, and that's it. No one else.
No, don't get me wrong. There are some players from our squad. I want them to play for Inter. I want Caldara to play for Inter. I
Yeah,
want
take him.
Krunic to play
Please
for
take him,
them.
Inzaghi.
But this is my worry. You get our crap players and you give it to Inter. I'm concerned that they might be able to squeeze something out of them, But we can't do the same in
Because
reverse.
it's the
True.
system. It's the system. That's why Hakan looks so damn good this year. It's the system they play.
Yeah,
Inzaghi's got
it
a
is.
really good system. You could put in, dude. I'm sure he can make Musa into a great right back probably too. Inzaghi.
Yeah, how was Musa yesterday? Because he
He
did
was
play in
terrible.
right back,
No,
didn't he?
no. I don't know if I mentioned this before I got cut off. So I had some conversations about him going in with some other people on Twitter, and he looked good at the beginning. Being that they weren't playing the ball much to him, he wasn't getting a lot of chances on defense, so he was pretty, invisible, I guess. So he didn't make any mistakes. But that when he got the yellow card, he made a big mistake because he's not a right back. A right back in that situation, when you have two players on you pressing you in your own half, you're going to turn and pass the ball back because he had Gabia behind him. Or Mike. Send the ball back or kick it out of bounds. I don't care. Get rid of the
Yeah.
ball. And what he did, he tried to go through two players because he's an offensive-minded player. He likes to take players on. And he lost the ball. He made a tackle because he pretty much tackled the guy behind him, and he got a yellow card.
Oh,
So
I just seen Christian. So this is so Christian was telling me was mentioning the Inter BS earlier. I was like, just what BS? So basically, Dumfries has put up a post on X, I guess, and it's that GTA meme with the guy walking the
yeah, I
dog.
know which one it is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's the guy's face is Dumfries and the dog's face is Teo. No,
The way Teo acted in that game, he deserves it.
he does. He does. He does. Unfortunately, yeah. I think there's ways of going out with grace. You're just not there. You don't need to completely lose it. It's like you'd say something if there was a flashpoint where, like, we had a goal disallowed that should have been allowed or something like that. But like Inter fucking were all over us. Like And it showed as much heart trying to stay in the fucking game as opposed to throwing handbags at the end of it. I think would all be in a better situation, but unfortunately they
So
didn't. That.
so FYI, that the inner game, I saw a lot of people blaming Mike for those goals. All right,
So many,
Mike
so
had,
many. Like no.
no, listen, that first goal. So, if you don't mind me bringing up two graphs here, guys. So I got something on the slides here to kind of prove my point that months. Let me bring this up. All right, hold on. All right, so this is the first goal. Everybody can see it.
Yep.
All right, so this is Inter's first goal. So a lot of people were blaming even the defense, saying, "How come Serbia got so open?" Look where our players were. I think this is Gabia. Gabia was supposed to be guarding a Serbia who scored the goal. Gabia, for whatever God reason, decided to double team. I think that's maybe Deo in front of him. I don't know. He's out of here all by himself. The Serbia's right there for all this space. So that's Gabia's fault, for one, for not marking his player. And we've seen that all season with these set pieces. That our set piece defense is terrible.
Yeah.
And then look where he's at. Look, Serbia's wide open in front of goal. I don't care if you're, who was that keeper from Russia back in the day, in the 60s, that won the Ballon d'Or,
Oh
the
man,
50s.
I used to know this. I can't remember, but I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
The name escapes me, but if anybody in the chat remembers, he played for Russia, right? So the Soviet Union back
Lunin
in
or
the day.
something like that. Lunin or
Yeah, yes.
something.
Either way, even the greatest keeper in that football's ever seen is not making that save.
No.
All right. So for everybody out there putting the blame on Mike, this first goal is not Mike's fault. This is on Gabia.
That's it, Lev Yashin. Thanks, Sharma.
Yeah. That's the
Anta
one.
Sharma's
Yeah.
in the chat, guys. Welcome,
Oh,
Anta Sharma.
he's trolling us. God damn
He
you,
just
Sharma.
Congratulations.
Hey,
Yeah, fine. Congratulations. Yes.
Sharma. You deserve it.
Congrats. Enjoy it. Enjoy the next season as well, because you're gonna probably win it as well, Sharma. So
Probably.
yeah. I'm sure he's enjoying these photos too.
Yep.
So
That's it.
this is the second goal. All right, this is Thuram. Right, so leading up to this goal, I don't have a clip of this, but Tomori was guarding Thuram, and Tomori, he didn't. I don't know what Tomori was doing defensively. He lost Thuram. He let Thuram turn on him. He lost him because he overplayed the ball. Thuram got in the box, and we've seen this how many times this season. High quality shots on us. Thuram smokes the shot. It's a banger of a shot. Mike did everything that he could. It's not like he got beat, under his leg. He got nutmeg. He tried making a save on a rocket of a shot, and the ball just went in.
Yeah.
So please, people out there, if you haven't played goalkeeper, if you haven't coached goalkeepers before, don't blame Mike. Mike's not the problem here.
There's so many levels and people.
It's our defense. It's our defense. Yeah, it's our defense. Most of these goals that we've allowed this season have been banger of goals.
Yeah.
All
I
right?
mean, and no offense to Adley, but if we're depending on Adley to be some sort of like a defensive-minded player in the midfield, right? And it's not Adley's fault because he's just not that kind of player. But at the end of the day, it's like, I mean, Jesus Christ, no wonder we're getting scored on. Like, it's easy to spot it, to be honest. It's awful.
Well, you got to remember, Adley lied. Adley, we all remember this. Adley even said it. He's like, it came out that because if Adley wasn't getting any playing time with Pioli, so he actually lied to Pioli. He's like, hey, Pioli, listen, coach, I could play defensive midfielder.
I know, but like, so Harry
And
Maguire
Pioli's like,
lied
sure.
before and said he was a professional footballer, but like, you still see it. You still see it when he's not. You know what I mean?
Well, hold on, Shane. So on that, so it's funny. So I follow a bunch of EPL accounts on one of my Fugly Defensive X account just to see what they're talking about. And now supposedly Maguire is one of the best center backs in England right now, according to them.
Jesus,
So that,
the
that how
bar is
quickly that's
literally
turned.
so low. No, it's the bar. There must be no bar anymore when it comes to defending in the Premier League. If Harry Maguire,
Not at all.
that is like there's no bar. Yeah, yeah. Might as well just have 11 strikers on the pitch. There's no need for defense.
Okay, guys. We're going to do the defensive special, right, Nico?
Oh,
Yeah, so let's get
By the
into a lot, but I got some stuff on the potential new coach. All right, so
Okay,
as far as we know,
bring up
go ahead, Hasni.
Sorry, I pressed that. Was that okay?
That was
Bit of
okay.
Yeah, that's fine. We're good. So, as we know, yesterday I broke the news that some Italian newspapers, they broke the news saying that we're potentially signing Lopetego to a contract for I think 4 years. So as far as that's the news right now. He hasn't agreed to that contract yet, but I can't imagine a coach like him, especially him, turning that offer down to coach Milan, right? Try to prove that what he did in the past is was a fluke, and he deserves to get a job at one of the biggest clubs in the world again. So let me bring up my presentation here, the slides. So first things first, let's get this profile going here of Lopetego. Well, according to Milan Post, a couple days ago, Lopetego was in pole position to become Milan's next coach. Even though there's a bunch of other names out there available, Lopetego seems like the one that's going to be our next coach for next season. Being that he's affordable, he has a record of working well with management as well. But more importantly, let's get into his stats here. All right, so Lopetego, last team he coached was the EPL team, the Wolverhampton team. All right, he's coached like 397 games. He's won 233 games, 79 losses. His preferred formation is 4-3-3. All right. He's coached Sevilla before, Real Madrid for a short stint, the Spanish team as well, and Porto. Now, this is a big stat. So this is from his 2022-23 season at Wolverhampton Wanderers. These are the stats. So there were 11 wins, 8 losses, 8 draws, 19 losses. 41 points. They were 13th in the Premier League. All right. Most importantly, they had a home record of 9 wins, 3 losses, 3 ties, 7 losses. Away record was 2, 5 draws, 12 losses total on away games. They've scored 31 goals. This is what we're looking at for next season. His team scored a total of 31 goals in the EPL, of all places. Goals against, 58. So we're potentially, his last defense, his team gave up 58 goals in a season.
Do you know? I think
So just I'm
So I
just saying,
think-
yeah.
where he did manage to make his name though was Sevilla, I believe. So he was one
Yeah,
of the
but
main
this is-
reasons why they.
Correct. But this is, what have you done for me lately? This, we can go whatever he did in Sevilla, but look at his stats in his last club. I mean,
Yeah.
this is what we're, it's not a good sign for us, Milanisti. But
And
you know,
let's be honest. He has coached at a big club before, and he's shown he couldn't do it. He's coached at Real,
he couldn't do it.
so he couldn't do it. So you know,
So
I
what
don't see
faith
how
You
does
this.
know,
what does it tell about us going in coaching at Milan, right, Husney?
Yeah,
you know what I'm thinking is that, and this could be a conspiracy by the management, saying that if you guys don't support us and support us in keeping Pioli, we're going to give you guys someone even worse.
that's it.
Just to mess with you
It's
guys. So
it's
maybe
a
this
spit
is
in the
some
face,
evil
but
plot by the ownership.
No,
I
it's
think Darth, it's some dark forces working against us. I don't know at this point.
no. I wouldn't even overstate it like that, right? I literally think it's just Cardinale prepping us to try and win Europa, because that's the only reason you'd hire this man. It's just, oh, okay, God, get ready for this, guys. It's going to be great. We're going to be rocking up in the fucking Europa League final every year. Like, who
So let's
cares?
talk about finances, right? We're supposedly he's in for the money to make money. How much money are we going to potentially make in the Europa every year
That's it.
compared to Champions League?
That's it. But I literally, I think 100%, man. Just so if you look at it, if you look at all of our acquisitions except for Pulisic, who's been amazing, and Andy Vive is another level completely. An awful lot of these are Europa League level players. They're
But
not
Shane,
like
like
they're not champions.
but Shane, what I said before. But if you have a Europa League manager, that's what
True.
you're going to get. If you bring in a world class coach to bring these kids
True.
up, to bring them up another level, they will become world class players. Look at Inzaghi, what
That's
he's
true.
done with Inter.
Yeah, yeah.
Look what Mota has done with Bologna. They're not
Yep.
champion, but he's bringing them into Champions League with that club.
That's it.
Look
Like,
what
and
look what Gasperini has done with his squad, where they're at in Europa. They have no business beating Liverpool like that, and they did.
yeah. But I think so. Like, it's amazing how quickly the Mata rumors died down, and it's like, you know, that move just would have made so much sense on so many levels, because you at least have some sort of confirmation that the guy knows what he's doing in the Serie A. So, you know, on his CV, he can put that down, and it's kind of more
Well,
legitimate than Lopetegui in that aspect.
correct. And with the Mota knows the league. He's played in Champions League. He knows different leagues. He knows different styles of other teams how they play in Europe.
Yep.
And two, you're setting yourself for the future. You have a plan, a project for the next 3 to 4 years with Mota.
Yep. It just makes
Plus,
so much sense.
And plus, you're playing exciting football, right?
Yep,
To boot, which all of us want to see that as fans.
hundred
And then you
percent,
want to
man.
bring in Lopetego for a short term. He's gonna end up failing. Most likely, he's gonna take us to Europa, and then in a season or two, you're gonna get rid of him. And then we're gonna restart the process again. Let's look for another coach. We're not gonna pay $50 million for De Zerbi or Mota. Mota's going to Juve. It's a done deal. They're just waiting for the end of the season for Mota to make make that official for Juve. So
Because I can't even like if Lopetegui, right, you know, has a good season, I still don't see him being better than Pioli is.
What's a good season? What do we expect? I expect at least second place.
Well, that's
I can't believe that's a good season anymore.
Yeah,
If you
but
take
like
another Scudetto, I can't
what I said
take
before,
it. I honestly can't.
dude, we can bring in. It doesn't matter who we bring. We're not winning the champ. We're not winning the title next year. But let's
we're
at
not
least
winning
contend
anything
for
next
it.
year, is it?
If we're 20 points behind Inter again at this point of the season, yeah, I'm gonna be pissed off. And we're giving up a ton of goals. I'm gonna be mad.
Yeah, but I think
I'll be the
Christian.
first one. I'll be the first one calling for his head.
So Christian Pasmino just had a point there, but he's like, have you seen the Zerbi this season? He's doing bad in 12th place. But I think we should
Yeah,
take a warning from that, though, about what
no,
Brighton are
the
doing, because that's
Zerbi,
money.
he's had key injuries too. He's had key injuries, but at least he plays a nice look. He has a system in place. I think
Yep.
with the right team, with the right players, De Zerbi would be a good coach. He's not my favorite. I don't like the style of football that he plays,
Yep.
personally. A lot of people like the way he plays. Great. I don't. But I think he would probably be very successful in back in Europe. I mean, in Italy again. But that
Hang on,
being said, I go ahead, Husni.
guys, I know because of what media coverage has been given. Why is Klopp not on the radar?
He's gone to
Klopp is-
Maybe not
Barcelona.
immediately, but in
Klopp is not going to
January.
Barcelona, is he? I thought he
Yeah,
was going to
that's
take
what-
the season. I thought he was taking the season off.
So one of the guys
So-
said it in the chat earlier, but I don't know, what sources that's from. But like, if he
Because
did
I
go
thought
to Barcelona,
I thought Xavi was staying.
I don't know.
Last time
don't
I
know.
heard, Xavi was going to stay at Barcelona. I don't know. We don't know until what's official, what's not. It's just a bunch of noise. But I know I didn't hear Klopp going, and I don't see how Klopp's system, because Klopp plays aggressive football, right? Totally opposite of Barcelona's DNA. That's
Yeah,
a whole.
like,
He wouldn't. His system of play does not fit with Barcelona's players, or their what they've done in the past.
Yeah. Still though,
But
be dangerous.
so before
Xavi
we get
has
into, guys, I do want to show one other thing as well. Let me share my screen here as well. Let me get this up. Tell me if you could see it. Let's get into Lopetegu's, some of his stats here. All right, this is from his time in Sevilla. I couldn't find anything more recent on his style of play. So he does. So first thing first,
sorry.
on press,
Yeah.
pressing wise. So obviously we know there's man marking, zonal pressing. He likes to do a zonal pressing on when we're pressing the ball, trying to get the ball back. So it's a zonal marking. So in formation, so let's go into defense.
If this is non-existent,
Well,
he's,
there's
like,
something here.
perfect.
Hold on. I got my notes here. Hold on, apologize. Let me get my notes
Alright.
for Sevilla, for Lopetego. I took some notes down for this. So, I mean, he does have a philosophy for defense, unlike Pioli. So that's a start.
Okay.
That's a positive thing, I guess.
Okay.
All right, let me pull this up here. All right, where is my notes? Sorry, we're not professional reporters here, journalists.
It's all right.
All right. This, okay. Let me get up this. There we go. Lopetego.
Just a quick one, guys.
Yeah, go ahead.
Make sure to like and subscribe, please, because we're getting dangerously close to the 100 subscriber count,
We're getting there.
getting there, man. So like and subscribe, you cretins.
Yeah, and if you're listening on Instagram as well, on X, please follow us on YouTube.
Mhm.
All right, here
Yeah,
we go.
YouTube
Where's
is the mainstream
Lopetego? Lopetego, where are you, Lopetego, in your defensive stats? Okay, here we go. All right. So here we go. Never mind. So the defense. So from a defensive point of view, he plays a 1-4-2-3-1. This was his time in Sevilla. So he plays a forward, 4 in the middle, 2 in the back, and you got 3 defenders, and you got your goalkeeper. That's when he does on defense. That's his formation of choice on defense. And he likes to play with those 2 midfielders supporting the defensive line. So, which means you would need 2 defensive-minded midfielders to play in his system, which we currently don't have. Tajani's not that player, and Adley is not that player most of the time. So we need to take that in consideration as well. All right. Defensively, they like to be very compact. They like to press individually, and they also play a high line. Something we've done this season, but we don't have the center backs to play a high line, a high pressure line, like we did doing this. The line is when we won the Scudetto, we had Tomori and Kulu that were both very fast, with a lot of pace center backs. We can't do that again either, right? So that being said, so zonal marking likes to play in a 1-4-2-3-1 on defense with two defensive midfielders, because you need to support the defensive line, right? You need to cover a lot of coverage on the pitch. You need to make a lot of runs recovering the ball, just like Kessie and Tonali did for us during that run when we won the title. Plus, you need two center backs with pace that can play. So that being said, if Lopetegui is our man, as the reports say, we're going to need to do change up a lot of different things next season.
I can. Yeah, Batman might actually work, Christian. He's not the manager that we want, but he's the manager that we need. All right. So yeah.
So Shane and Husney, with that being said, what is your take on this potential new coach?
Honestly, it's going to tell a lot whoever it is, right? Because if it's going to be some guy that hasn't won the Champions League, or has at least gotten a good distance into the Champions League, then it's not an upgrade on Pioli. Lopetegui isn't an upgrade on Pioli. Neither is Jesse fucking Marsh. We need to be looking at someone who's going to make us better here. Like Conte obviously would. However, there's a time frame on that, right? So it'll make you better for like 2 or 3 years, and then you have to go and look again, and then you're paying for another manager's salary potentially. While you have to replace Conte. So I think that being said, for me, it's just I can't even comment about who they're going to get, but it's going to tell a lot. How about you, Hosni?
My frank opinion is that sorry to say, guys, I honestly don't give a shit about European trophies right now. Even if we were to crash out of the group stage or really not make it very far in the Europa League, I don't care. I want the Scudetto. And my opinion is that it doesn't take a spectacular team to win the Scudetto. If you want to run away with it, fine. Yeah, if you want to run away with it, like win it like in the 30th match day and win the Scudetto, then yeah, that's all great. But I just need us to win that. So if you ask me, based on what you guys have presented about the Lopetegui, however the hell you pronounce his name, if he by some fluke reason can win us the league title, I'm cool with that. Then we can use that as a platform to build on for Europe, see how far we can go in the Champions League. But we have to start domestically first. We can't be weak in domestically trying to like fight for top 4 or be such a distant place from the top. That's just not being competitive. But that being said, any new coach, we just need new ideas. Any new coach would, I think, give us the initial boost and hopefully a lot more to sustain and definitely be better than what Pioli, because Pioli is completely out of ideas. He's done. The man has been done actually since January last year, but he's still here. So
Husney,
whatever it is, anyone will do.
Husney, so I agree with you in a lot of points. First, I think it's gonna be like a honeymoon phase with the new coach. The first few games going to be everybody's going to love their tactics and they're going to love his selection of players, and let's see what we do in the summer mercato. Like we said, I said and we said we need forwards, we need midfielders, we need center backs, we need a right back, we need a left back to back up Deo. So we need a lot of holes to fill this season, off season.
That's it.
That being said, how patient are you going to be with this new coach, Husney, and Shane as well? In terms of how
It
many games
depends
are
where
going to.
it depends on the trajectory. So if he's not going to keep us in top four by mid-season, he has to go. I mean, that's pretty much it. But it's definitely going to take some time for him really to stamp his authority. And we were quite patient with Pioli, by the way. Yeah. So Pioli, you could say he had the fortune of keeping hold of the team while the COVID was really exploding, and he had time to prepare because we've all seen the news and the write up during the COVID period where they couldn't play football. He actually used that time to get closer with his players to really understand and spend study essentially study the game. Now he doesn't have the luxury because the games are coming regardless whether he likes it or not. So in terms of preparation and getting the team mindset correct, uh, I think it's fair to say that the new coach has until the end of this year.
Yeah, because again, it does. It really depends on
Shane?
how badly it goes, right? So, because at the end of the day, it's like what you want to see is you want to see some sort of consistency in the progress, right? And that's something really that Pioli has never been able to achieve outside of the Scudetto run. It's just maintaining some sort of consistency where we don't like, I know Inter were 6-0, but like we can, 1 week we could beat Juventus or Roma or another team in Italy, a bigger team, let's say top four type team, and next thing then lose to like Salernitana the week afterwards. It can't be like that. Do you know what I mean? There has to be a game plan. So it all has to be judged on merit and judged on, is this coach going to give us what Pioli hasn't, right? And then that's kind of the way it has to go. But guys,
Well,
we have really overrun. It is 1 hour and 42 minutes.
all right,
So
so I kind of ran out of my time. I had some other stuff to present, but for anybody listening to the show, I wanted to talk about some defensive players but I'll make that into a different segment. All right, either on this channel or on my channel as well. All right,
awesome.
so just keep an eye for that as well.
Awesome. Thanks a million, Nico.
And just
Nico, how's
hey fellas,
everyone?
remember, let's be patient. We're not winning anything next year, so.
That's it.
I also like to take this opportunity to thank the guys who've quite involved in the chat. So we have 20 active viewers. Appreciate you guys very much,
Yeah,
especially those on X Twitter.
that's it.
Much love from you guys, as well as those who
Yes,
send and
lots of
make
love.
comments. Yeah, John, Gunardi, Nathan, Christian Fasmino, Ray, uh, Uncle Shama. Thanks for appearing and
Yeah.
giving the support.
Hey, we love Uncle Sharma, huh?
Tick Size. Just found your channel. Tick Size. I like your name. Legend. Um,
Right on.
Make sure though, like and subscribe, guys, because seriously, it is a vibe to get over 100 subscribers. Never thought it would have been possible. So, yeah.
I think size. Yeah, I know him
All right.
from before.
Right
All right.
on.
Thanks again, and
Cool.
until next pod, and be sure to catch out Nico's next episode as well.
Defensive
Forza Milan as
Dynamo.
well.
All right.
Forza Milan.
Fellas, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.